Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Six more races left to decide the fate of who wins the first ever BRSCC Winter Esports competition. It takes us to the club's local home circuit. It is Brands Hatch and the full Grand Prix layout situated in Kent. Three more races for the Mazda MX-5 Global Cup cars, and there is a tight battle at the top of the point standings. Just 3 points separating the top three with a tie for second place. It's all to play for here for rounds 13, 14 and 15 of the inaugural BRSCC Winter Esports Series on the Brands Hatch circuit here once again on BRSCC and Apex Racing TV. Scott Woodwis and Andy Thompson back in the commentary box again, and it's set to be another exciting evening, particularly, Andy, with the fact that Will Redford is the man who's doing the catch-up. He sits in joint second, but actually sitting in third at the moment behind John Higgins Jr. It's Mikey Doble in control at the top of the points, just 3 ahead. At the moment, he needs to try and have 6 pretty much trouble-free races and try and keep ahead as best he can. There's the standings after drop scores and head into the final 6 races of the season. Mikey Doble on top with Higgins second, Will Redford back in third, and Will Blackwood Chambers fourth and Joseph Doble fifth. This really is, I think, going to be more pressure on Redford than it is the other two tonight, because he really has to drive pretty much as perfect as he can, because if not, he could be kissing his possible esports title hopes goodbye.
Yeah, good evening, Scott. Good evening, viewers, and probably to the track I've most been looking forward to here at Brands Hatch with the GP layout. It's going to be fast and frenetic in these MX-5 cars. Slipstream fest, certainly coming down the long back straight and over the start-finish line. It's going to be a really good racing. But yeah, I mean, what a contrast of form Will Redford's seen, and we saw him at the start of the season in round 1 in Alton Park, literally dominating that race, winning all 3 races. And the last 2 rounds, he's had a little bit of a hiccup, feeling a little bit of the pressure, and has sort of come unstuck, giving Mikey Doble the opportunity to come back up and catch him, overtake him, and he is now a man on a mission. Is Mikey Doble winning quite a few races up to this round here tonight, so it's going to be a really interesting battle how Will Redford gets himself back. He did well in the last race out in the last round, so maybe that has given him a little bit more confidence, and realizing that he needs to just be consistent. We heard him in the commentary box on the last race, you know, really battling with himself, saying, you know, I lost a little bit of confidence, but I'm pretty sure he's going to bounce back here tonight and give us some really good epic racing in the 3 races we have here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that both he and Mikey Doble have won 5 races each, but Mikey's been more dominant than the man between Wellington Park and Knock Hill. Of course, Will Redford, as you mentioned, Won all 3 races at Alton Park at the season opener. He then won another one at Silverstone in the middle race. And then it's taken him a further 7 races or so to actually get himself back onto the top step of the podium. And that was the third of the 3 races that took place at Knock Hill last time out. This man, of course, leads the points, which is number 88, Mikey Doble. Of course, for those who know him in real-world racing circles, you know he's also the Nankang-type BMW Compact Cup champion and also concurrently the Ginetta GT5 champion, so certainly putting all of his rear-wheel drive prowess to good use. Currently, he's a tenth and a bit off Will Redford, who is crucially on pole position with about 5 minutes of qualifying left to go. There's the man in second in points. That's John Higgins Jr. We should mention there are actually 2 John Higginses racing. There are John Higgins Jr. and we're going to call him John Higgins Sr. This is Junior. At the moment, he's currently sat second in the points, tied with Will Redford. There's number 3, which is John Higgins Sr., just running around, I think, looks like with Chris Etheridge in the #blessed car. Look at the qualifying results so far. It's a good effort so far too for Matt Kendall, third fastest, 1.5 tenths off the current pole time if we ride on board with Mikey Doble, currently second quickest as he turns in through right-hander at Westfield. Toward the curb on the exit and out towards Sheen Curve. This, of course, one of the proper old-school classic racetracks, not just in the UK, but really at least in all of Europe. It is personally one of my favourite circuits in the world. Of course, it is the local circuit, technically the home of the British Racing Sports Car Club. It used to be based here several years ago, but of course it's now moved several areas around into its current home in Kings Hill. It's only about a 15-20 minute drive away from the BRSCC offices to head to Brands Hatch. It's always a favourite when an event takes place here, particularly when you get events such as the Formula Ford Festival that takes place here every October. So here is Mikey Doble coming across the line. He stays second. He might have improved his lap time a little bit, but stays in P2. Redford, meanwhile, is on 2 purple microsectors, so he's trying to go even quicker. He's on a little sprint to a line here. He's got 1 minute 38.899 to beat. If he can do it, the answer is no. He lost a second or so in the latter part of that lap. No, he has gone quicker, in fact. The time actually updated late. It's 1:38.819. Or Will Redford at the top of the times. He now extends his pole margin by a fraction over 2 tenths of a second. Now on board with Richard Harwood in his car, 12th fastest at the moment. He's going a little bit into a personal best. He comes up through Stirling, using all the curb on the exit. This is one of those old school circuits, Andy, where there's not really been that much change in terms of its original layout when the Grand Prix layout was conceived. There's been 1 or 2 little tweaks to corners like Bottom Bend, which is now known as Graham Hill Bend, and also some tweaks around where, you know, Sheen Curve and what was used to be called Dingledale. Now it's, of course, a couple. You start as 1 corner, then a bit of a quick chicane, now back to 1 corner again. But apart from that, most of Brands Hatch relatively unchanged. It is one of those circuits where they don't really make them like they used to anymore. It's a cliche phrase, but really in the case of Brands Hatch, they really don't.
100%. I mean, why change something that really works? I mean, it's such a great course. I mean, you've got the Paddock Hill Bend, which is a classic in motor racing. Always see a lot of incidents of cars going wide there and getting in a kitty litter. I remember going there live and actually watching a couple of the races around there and seeing some of the spectacular crashes that go down through Paddock Hill Bend. And then you got the classic Druids coming down into Graham Hill Bend, you know, another classic set of corners here at Brands Hatch. But really good that we have got the Grand Prix layout and not using the Indy layout, because you get to see all the back end of the track. Another classic bit, you know, you were mentioning there through the Westfield Bend, a really tight section of cars, and it's going to be really critical for these Mazdas to try and maintain momentum, as what we've been saying all season, and no perfect track to do it around here. You've got some nice slow corners, but then you've really got to try to keep your momentum coming through Surtees down the long Pilgrim drop down into Hawthorne Bend and the Westfield Bend. You know, it's really vital that the drivers maintain that speed. If they get offline slightly, they could lose a lot of speed coming down that middle straight, should I say, and could see a few position changes coming down into the very fast Hawthorne Bend. And I'm expecting to see cars going side by side there, but it's going to be an absolute classic race. Really looking forward to it. And you know, the standard of racing that we've seen, obviously at Alton Park, it was quite a few of the drivers' first outing on iRacing, so trying to get used to it. And now they get into the stride. We're seeing a lot more of the mid-pack up the front facing. We're talking about Matt Kendall, you know, wasn't really there or thereabouts around in Alton Park, but certainly in the last couple of rounds come on strong, and we can see him there in 3rd place. Not that far behind Will Redford in 1st place.
Yeah, Matt was one of the particularly strong drivers that we saw last time out at Knock Hill, and is qualifying. Well, he aborts that. I thought he aborted that lap. A bit of a glitch on the screen, but he comes across the line now. He sets a purple sort of middle microsector in that lap. He goes 1:39.244, so he doesn't actually improve his time. He stays third fastest. We did also see Steve Roberts, who is used to racing these Mazda MX-5s in real life, a couple of times. He was going quite well on his lap, but he stays fourth quickest. Crossed the line, Chris Etheridge and one of the Greytreks, Callum Greytrek, crossed the line. Personal best for Callum. Chris Etheridge has been getting a little bit stronger across the season. He's currently sat in 7th fastest. He's about a second off pole. Redford is looking on a pretty strong last couple of sectors across the line, and he doesn't improve, but he's looking very consistent in his lap time. So I think possibly Will's decided to do a bit of a reset of his mindset, a bit of reset of his driving style a little bit, and just put himself back to where he should be, which is at the front of the field. And it looks as though, given his performance in qualifying, that is where he is going to start. And here is the grid. We go straight into race number 1 tonight. This is how they line up for round 13 of the BRSCC Winter Esports Series at Brands Hatch. Will Redford then starts on pole position, only 2/10 ahead of his main rival Mikey Noble in the championship, from Matt Kendall and Steve Roberts on the second row. Then Will Blackwood Chambers and the other of the 3 title contenders, John Higgins Jr., starting in 6th. An improved effort from Chris Etheridge sees him start in 7th, further ahead of Lee Brisson, then Keith Dalton and Joseph Doble, the second of the Dobles here racing tonight, and then Jack Noller and Richard Harwood rounding out the top 12 runners on the 6th row. Then it's John Higgins Sr. and Andrew Tibbs, one of our newcomers tonight, so welcome to him. Luke Herbert and Jason Greytrex on the 8th row of the grid, from Rowan Lundy and Aidan Edgar. And then the top 20 is rounded out by James Barrett and Matt Goddard. Then Harry England, our Fiesta Junior runner, from Tom Selden, and Gary Preble, one of the main men behind Silver Lake Garage Autos. Then we have Callum Greytrex in 24th, and I think a couple more cars right at the back, which is James Riley and Robert Bannister. So getting set for racing action tonight, and of course a standing start as usual. The run towards Paddock Hill Bend is always pretty tricky, and particularly, of course, we've got such a pack of 26 very competitive Mazda MX-5s here. Paddock Hill Bend, always known as one of the most daunting corners in motorsport, both real and sim. It's going to be tricky, particularly when you've got some very competitive and fired up drivers here tonight, Andy. If they're all going to be heading down towards Paddock Hill Bend, it is just as treacherous in the sim as it is in real life.
100%, and obviously got to let the tyres warm up on these cars, and the Mazda's real treacherous on this first lap. So, you know, expect some action in the midfield with cars trying to jostle for position, because that's where we always see the action in the back end of the field. So the front runners need to try and get a good start here. But over to you for the start of the race, sir.
So, 3 title contenders, 3 more races tonight to decide what the fate will be and how it will look heading into the final races of the season at Laguna Seca. The safety car moves off. It looks like they're going for a rolling start, a formation lap, it looks like. So, expecting a regular standing start, but they're heading off behind the safety car on this one. So, this is going to be a chance for them to head around the Brands Hatch in the Grand Prix circuit and get some heat into the tyres and warm them up a little bit better. So, this circuit, of course, is one of the best old-school circuits. It's not one of those circuits that's used too much in club racing. It's usually sort of bigger events like British Touring Cars or British GT, but on the very lucky few occasions where we do get club racing on the Grand Prix circuit, it is quite a spectacle to behold, which is quite impressive. I wonder if possibly they've taken the decision of a rolling start, mainly because it is quite a tight and compressed and treacherous corner, as we talked about, being Paddock Hill Bend. So maybe they've taken a slightly more wise decision than rather than everyone trying to pile into Paddock at first. Possibly they're going to lead them off onto a rolling start, if not bring them for a formation lap around the grid to try and get some heat into the tyres, get some heat into the brakes to get them warmed up. But everyone's kind of in a nice, neat 2x2 formation. So I think Mikey Doble's taking over as pole sitter, at least at the moment, at least in front. He's not a Schumacher 94 situation where he's going to get black flag. I don't think he will be. But this should be pretty interesting, particularly when the mindsets of all 3 drivers are going to be pretty interesting. You've got Will Redford, who knows he has to be now for the next 6 races inch perfect. He cannot afford a mistake for any of these next few races. Mikey Doble is the one that's being chased by everybody else. He's got that very slender 3-point advantage. He's not made very many mistakes, if any, so he's got a little bit of a get-out-of-jail card a couple of times with some drop scores. Even then, he wants to be as clean as possible. You got John Higgins Jr., who is up there in second place on equal points with Redford at the moment. He's been a little more consistent, hasn't won as many races, but he's kept his nose cleaner than the other 2 have, and they've been hitting problems. So that could be a possible factor for him. Watch him pick his way through. He's got some work to do for around about 6th or 7th on the grid. So the rest of the field makes its way around, just gathering pace here out of Stirling up towards the right-hander at clearways in McLaren. And I would imagine when the safety car comes in, it will be underway and racing. Must have been a bit of a decision taken in the briefing beforehand to go with a rolling start. Safety car is in then, so Will Redford will get them lined up and underway from pole position as we get set for round 13 of the BRSCC Winter Esports Series. Red lights are on, green flag in the air, and we are racing in MX-5 down towards Paddock Hill Bend, and Redford holds the inside line, and it's Mikey Doble who loses second place immediately to Kendall, who's up on the inside on the exit of Paddock, and Doble are already chasing for that second place once again. Everyone's cleanly through, it looks like, so far into Paddock, into Druids for the first time. Pretty compacted for fourth behind the top three, between Blackwood Chambers in that fourth position and side by side for fifth, and not for much longer. It's not. That's John Higgins Jr. involved. He's been tagged by Steve Roberts. Both got together. He's tagged John Higgins Sr. involved in one of the grey Trexes. Both grey Trexes involved. Not quite sure what the Callum grey Trex was doing there. He went straight into the side of one of the initial accident instigators. Both of the grey Trexes involved, as was also Luke Herbert. So I figured they'd got a little bit cleaner after these first couple of races, but unfortunately not into the first couple of laps. Mike Joseph Doble's also hit trouble as well in car number 11. So immediately, whilst Will Redford and Mikey Doble race up the road, John Higgins Jr., Andy, in all sorts of trouble after only 2 corners.
Yeah, definitely is the worst possible start for John Higgins Jr. there. Obviously was started in 6th places, so was in a little bit of like the melee at the top end of the mid-pack. So, you know, he needed to try and keep it clean. Unfortunately, had a bit of an issue there coming out of Druids and got tagged, and literally mayhem ensued further down into the field and got hit quite a few times. So I'm pretty sure his car will be extensively damaged, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see John Higgins Jr. in there, but certainly not where he wanted to be in that title contention at the moment. But Will Redford in a perfect position, and has Matt Kendall gone up the position between himself and Mikey Doble, so this could be win-win at the moment, but still very early days, and we do know Mikey is very good at trying to overtake, and then when he finally does get in front, we've seen him heroically doing the defensive job, but pretty much wants to win here tonight to try and keep that first place and give Will Redford the pressure of trying to beat him at the moment. But Will Redford is maintaining his pole position there out front. Mike Kendall in second place at 1 with Mikey Doble in third.
Yeah, clean start from everywhere he needs to be. This is James Riley a bit further back. He's into 30th place. Quite a few benefactors from that first lap skirmish between several cars. Just the one that's lost it the most is John Higgins Jr. Now, he has carried on in 23rd position. 2 cars that have been in the pit lane to get themselves fast repaired. Looks like Luke Herbert and Callum Greatrex. Callum went steaming in for whatever reason down towards Graham Hill Bend, and that's what's cost him a possible race result here today. I think one of the biggest benefactors we had from that was actually Chris Etheridge. Now, here's the replay. So it's Roberts and Higgins Jr. It's Roberts moving across on Higgins Jr. and both cars go spinning. This is left backwards. He rolls back into the path with another car, into John Higgins Sr., then into Luke Herbert, and Callum Greatrex. He either just had nowhere to go and just couldn't hit his brakes in time, but straight into the side of Steve Roberts. So his car will be substantially damaged, I'd imagine. I think it looks like John Higgins Jr. might have got away with minimal damage. He probably will have some, but it might be bearable on that side. He carries on down the order. Meanwhile, this is further up. This is the replay of Callum Greatrex. This is what he saw. He's following behind one of the mid-pack cars. All kicks off in front. Let's look at his view. Now, it's not unsighted, but at the same time, you can see he's trying to brake, and his road is completely blocked with 5 cars all across the track in front of him. So, on the one hand, I can understand he's a bit sort of got nowhere to go, but at the same time, seeing it happen, I've almost thought to back off a little bit and not kind of be go piling in, because that can only make things a little bit worse. So, he's got work to do from 25th and behind, and more, but whilst that's happening, well, it's left me speechless, that did. Jack Muller gets nudged off at Druids by Lee Britton. He's almost stuck in the gravel, I think, if he's going to get going. He's realised rather than try and get going again, it's fruitless to try and continue from there, quickly fast repair it and back to the pits. Right, from this position now, it looks as though it's pretty much a slam dunk. That was all Lee Britton, but how do you see it?
Yeah, it definitely is. Let's have a look at it here. Just coming up on the inside, tried to get that inside line in there. Jack Noller just tried to close it off, and unfortunately a bit of contact there. Was going very quick, Lee Britton there, up into Druids, and unfortunately Jack again has been a victim of an incident. He's had real bad fortune here tonight. I mean, we saw him at the start of the season was up the front end of the field, but seems to be going the wrong way at the moment. You can see him down there in the pits in 23rd position. Just looking further down the field. So John Higgins Jr. up back up the field into P18th at the moment. We can see Mikey Doble has managed to get past Matt Kendall again, so he's chasing down Will Redford for the lead here in the race. But I'm pretty sure it's not Matt's end of the day, and we'll have something else to say in this race. We've got 10 minutes left of the first race. We've got 3 races here tonight for you, 15 minutes long, with the last race being a 10 grid reverse from the results of the second race, and that's where we've really seen Will Redford struggling slightly a little bit. We saw an aggressive one out last time in Knock Hill for that third race. We normally see him quite tentative at the start of the race and try and pick it, but I think he got the bit between his teeth there, and I wonder if he's going to play the same tactic again if he can manage to stay at the front end and start off around about that 10th position. But that's all to come, and we're still here today. And John Higgins Jr. there up to P17th after that earlier mistake on that opening lap coming around. Druids is trying to fight back, just trying to gain some valuable points, but he is a million miles off his championship rivals of Will Redford and Michael Doble, who, as we see Jane Riley take the off-road track there going down Graham Hill corner.
Yeah, a bit of a scenic route for James Riley. I think we've actually got the two John Higgins a little bit switched around as Lee Britton's involved to get. That's Rowan Lundy, in fact, this had I had a bit of a mistake there because I thought it was Lee Britton because it was a red car. Quite a few red and white cars in the mix. There goes Jason Greytrex, number 33, followed by, looks like Aidan Edgar. Here's a look at the replay. Now it looks like he's had 2 incidents, we think, and this is possibly the second one we're looking at here. This is Rowan Lundy down towards Surtees, so he turns in, just understeers and just dips his right rear onto the curb, and that's what spins him round. And maybe that's the first one, because he reverses back onto the circuit, and off the road goes Callum Greytrex in avoidance. That's the second time he's been off today. Tries to get going again, and no, that was the second incident. So he got going again whilst Callum Greytrex went off in avoidance. Now, I think we've had a bit of misidentification possibly on my part, because it looks though, I think actually, get the timing screen, John Higgins Jr. is actually up into currently 9th position. It's John Higgins Sr. that's way down at the moment in 17th, because of course they're showing on the timing screen as John Higgins and John Higgins. So John Higgins is the senior, John Higgins is junior, just for those who might be watching on the live timing. So at the front, we continue to watch Lee Britton here being chased by Richard Harwood in the darker red MX-5 with the Rising Sun decal on the bonnet. It's over 7th and 8th position. It's still Will Redford now by a quarter of a second. And Mikey Doble, a little while ago, did take second place away from Matt Kendall, so he's now has to pick up that spot and go back into where he started from the front row of the grid. Kendall is 3rd, Will Blackwell-Chambers is 4th, and those 4 broken away by about a couple of seconds now from the rest of the chasing pack. In fact, perfect timing back to the front, because Mikey Doble is all over the rear bumper of Will Redford in towards Hawthorns. It should be pretty tricky then. So in through the right-hander towards Westfield then. This is on lap number 5 of this first race of the evening here at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. Kendall keeping in close proximity, as is also Blackwell-Chambers in the white and red car just behind in 4th position. Through Sheen Curve, that massive compressions, they thump over the curb and then back to the right-hand side of the circuit. And you sweep in through Stirling and back up through the gears again under the bridge. You get towards Clearway, McLaren and Clark Curve. Come back down once again, but Redford now feeling the pressure under brakes. He knows that he has to try and keep it as clean as possible. I mean, even if he doesn't finish the race in front, he just needs to take the points as much as he can. It will possibly give an advantage to Doble by a couple more points, but of course John Higgins Jr. will be the one that loses out a little bit. Here comes Doble sweeping left and right. He's putting Redford under a lot of pressure in towards Paddock Hill Bend as they get themselves up onto 2 wheels, and Redford's over the curb, so is Doble, so is Kendall, and Blackwell-Chambers is up there in 4th. I don't know why, but for some reason Mikey Doble has the wipers on. There's no rain yet in iRacing, but he's got them on possibly to clear the windscreen of some dust and dirt from the cars in front. Redford turns in now, coming past half distance, 8 3/4 minutes gone in this race. Top 4 covered by just over a second. It looks still almost a little bit like Doble's one's going to go under attack, and there he goes, up the inside towards Surtees. Redford left the door wide open for Doble to go through. Straight past goes Mikey, thinks thank you very much, but it might not be that for much longer, because Redford has kept pace on the outside line. It puts him on the right track position to be inside towards Hawthorns. Now Kendall and Blackwell-Chambers have got a perfect seat here. They're going to watch this happen as 2 of the championship contenders go side by side through Hawthorns corner, neither giving an inch. They're almost touching wing mirrors. Kendall tries to get his nose in there. Redford throws it back up the inside through Westfield, goes a little bit too deep. He goes over the curb and Doble's back up the inside, but Redford carries enough momentum to keep on the outside line, keep his nose in front, and he stays in front for the moment. I think that's the key phrase though, Andy. He's got 3 very feisty MX-5s snapping at his heels as we go towards the last 5 minutes of this race.
100%. Will Redford certainly feel the pressure, and I think obviously Mikey Doble putting the wiper on because of all the sweat that Will Redford's under at the moment, trying to keep that first place. We have seen a few mistakes from Will in previous rounds, so he's probably conscious of that. And Mikey's probably trying to put him under a little bit of pressure here to try and force a mistake here from Will Redford, but doing a great job there, going side by side pretty much half of the last lap as we go on to another one as we ride the ball with Will Blackwood Chambers. It's pretty close at about, oh, it looks like, oh, bit of a spinner in front, and luckily the top 4 managed to do that, but Will Blackwood Chambers literally saw that really late and just managed to come out. That was Harry England having his little spin, one of the back markers there that nearly caused absolute chaos, and I think his car is pretty toast. It certainly looks like it's not going in a straight line there, but that could have caused chaos with the front 4 there.
There was 4 simultaneous heart attacks that happened all in the space of a few microseconds there, because all 4 cars saw that car sideways across the road, possibly rolling back onto the track, and thinking, which of it is it going to hit and make contact with? Thankfully, it wasn't any of them. It was Harry England, I think, coming out of the pits into Paddock Hill Bend, gets it very sideways at the bottom of the hill. Let's see how close that was. He slides back and spins across the road again. There goes Redford, Doble, and he splits both Blackwood Chambers and Kendall, who go either side of the 333. Rotates it back around again, and away he goes. He's back in 24th position. Now what that's done, it's broken up the top 4 a little bit. It's now given both Redford and Doble the chance to pull away in first and second. It's now created a gap of a few car lengths each between Kendall and Blackwall Chambers. So that's going to be something that might close up in the next couple of laps, provided that Redford and Doble don't battle so much that it possibly gives them a chance to close that gap in. It was 1.1 seconds about a lap and a bit ago between that top quartet at the head of the field. It's now extended about to over double that to 2.3, 2.4 seconds. That can be intriguing to see. In 5th position, we've still got Chris Etheridge there. He's just looking on the timing screen as we watch Joseph Doble and Aidan Edgar fighting over 12th and 13th. 5th place for Chris Etheridge. That is arguably his best, not arguably, it is his best run of the season, I think, so far in P5. Keith Dalton looking strong also in P6. There is Chris. He's not too far away. He's about 3.3 seconds away from the back of that top 4. Then we've got Keith Dalton, the black car, in 6th position. There he goes in 7.11. Lee Britton in 7th place. Richard Harwood sits in 8th. And then John Higgins Jr., despite his contact with Steve Roberts right here down the hill, is staying in 9th position. So it's not too much damage. He might well be able to claim one of these scores back as a drop score if he can make that work. And Andrew Tibbs, who I think is his first appearance racing in the Winter Series tonight, but P10 on his debut so far, that's pretty impressive. I think that the student driver on the side is possibly a bit of a joke, or a bit of a rather ironic choice of delivery, I think, because he's actually not driving like a student. He's doing pretty well. There's James Riley here watching just behind Rowan Lundy. This is for position for 15th place, but as we come into the last couple of minutes, it looks as though that, I say things settled down, at least for 3rd and 4th it has. There's about a 1.2 second gap between, but I don't think this is calming down anytime soon between Redford and Doble as the minutes tick down with just over 3 of them left to go. And possibly either one of these two are going to end up at the checkered flag first.
100%. They're both putting 110% here. You see the cars sliding around the corners, just trying to get that extra couple of attempts of speed out of this car coming in there. But obviously, Mikey Doble at the moment is looking at eyeing up Will Redford. He's going to have to try and make his move pretty soon. Like you said, only 2 minutes left really of this first race to go. We've seen him make a move there into Cersei's on the last couple of laps ago. We saw him, so maybe he'll make a move again there. But certainly sizing up Will Redford. These two are managing to get away at the moment from Matt Kendall in 3rd place, who will be having a little bit of a fight with Will Blackwood Chambers after that earlier incident that sort of split them up. But this gives the 2 main protagonists in the championship at the moment the ideal opportunity to battle it out between themselves. Will Redford at the moment on top in 1st place. Mikey Doble in 2nd place is all over the back of Will Redford's car, so we'll probably see Will going super defensive and obviously learning from the mistakes of trying to give too much space to Mikey Doble on the inside, because if you give him an inch, he will put his car right into the gap and make that opportunity as we come down into Hawthorne for probably the second to last time we're going to see this, call it in the first race. But Will Redford still managing to hold out on Mikey Doble in 2nd place at the moment.
Well, that was close. We're seeing here Keith Dalton and that was Lee Britton going side by side, but he cut just back away because back towards it was very close between the top two. And here comes Doble up the inside into Sheen Curve. Redford has to give him the space and Doble switches across and just about gets his nose in front. He quickly runs to the inside line to defend from Redford in towards Stirling Corner. It's going to be touch and go here. It might well be the checkered flag. It might well be another lap with about a few seconds to spare. It might well be last time here, down towards the right-hander at McLaren for what could be the last time. It will be the last time. And Doble going ultra-defensive. He's done this before. Redford gets the run outside. It could be a sprint to the flag here. Kendall looks to the outside. It could be a photo finish. Checkered flag is out. It's going to be three abreast. There's contact between the top two. Cross the line they go as a threesome. And it's Mikey Doble who wins race one at Brands Hatch by 84 1/1000ths of a second. From Will Redford in second place and Matt Kendall in third. The top three covered by 0.168 of a second. And Will Blackwell Chambers rounds out the top four. Let's look at a replay of that. This is the view here from Doble, and this is back to where it started, all the way through here up at Westfield, inside at Sheen Curve. Pulls himself alongside. Redford has to squeeze him as much as he can. He can't push any more because they'll put him on the grass. So Doble gets in front, delivers his way in front. This is the view from Redford in towards Stirling. Doble break a little bit earlier into that corner, put himself slightly off the ideal racing line. Here comes Redford on the right-hand side there. He tried the outside line because that's all he could do. Doble again using his ultra-defensive tactics to the maximum here, parking that car right on the apex. And the sprint to the line, he got a bit of a bump here, I think, from Kendall behind. There was some contact right on the line. He's just there before the run to the checkered flag. Doble managed to keep his nose and his car in front to make that finish happen in what was arguably, in fact, not just one of possibly the closest finish we've had so far this season. And that certainly is a finish that will woken plenty of them up, particularly those top two, in a race that we expected to happen, and thankfully we got it.
It certainly was. I mean, that was just an amazing pass there on the last lap. Had to hang it all out and put everything on the line and manages to get it on. And then coming into the last straight to the start-finish line, pretty much Mikey was not going to give that position to Will. Just literally just tracking him across the track there, going over the start-finish line there for race number one. I mean, what a great race. Mikey just trying to get the position in there and managing to get it on the very last lap. So Will probably kicking himself, saying he left the door open there, but still another two races for Will to try and get them points back.
Well, it puts them on the front row again once more, but it's the swap sides for race number two. Of course, race two grid is set by the results of race number one, and we go straight into it. So Mikey Doble then starts on pole position with Will Redford alongside him, and Matt Kendall, after finishing third, starts third for race number two, alongside Will Blackwell Chambers in fourth. Rest of that top 10 result was Chris Etheridge, who was fifth, Keith Dalton sixth, and Lee Britton seventh, Richard Harwood eighth, Andrew Tibbs as well to grab ninth in the last couple of laps. Then Jason Greatrex rounds out the top 10. Joseph Doble in 11th. He did well to recover from an early first lap spin too. He had a spin at Surtees on the opening lap, not long after the incident at Graham Hill Bend. Then we had John Higgins Jr., who will start in 12th after it looks like he dropped down a couple of places late on. Aidan Edgar is 13th and John Higgins Sr., then Rowan Lundy and James Riley. Then we have Gary Preble and Tom Selden from Robert Bannister and Matt Goddard. Then Luke Herbert, who's way back in 21st. He was one of those innocent victims in that incident in 21st. James Barrett, 22nd. Steve Roberts, who was one of the two main instigators of that, making contact. He moved across on John Higgins Jr. from our replay cameras. Harry England, who caused 4 simultaneous heart attacks between the top 4 after he spun off coming out of the pits after a fast repair down at the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend. Then Callum Greatrex, who a kamikaze down here towards Graham Hill Bend, piling into that incident, and Jack Noller, who also was nerfed off the road by Lee Britton. He had to start from the back of the grid after he also had a fast repair as well. So that is how they will start based on where they finished in race number one. It now means that it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers on the front row of the grid now deal with opposite sides, because I've often seen, if we had a standing start, typically if you're on the left-hand side, so the side that's not on pole position, I've often seen that side can get a cleaner and faster start, because if you look at how the front row and the front few rows sit and how the tarmac sits, pole positioning is on a slight slant on the inside of the track, whereas if you've got the other side in second place on the front row, it's on a flatter, more plateaued piece of tarmac, which means that you typically can get a better start because the car is more level. ever watched either any series that's rear-wheel drive that has a good start here at Brands Hatch, you'll see that sometimes from the left-hand side of the grid, particularly in pole position, when they get wheel spin, the car is almost fighting not to slide down the track towards the wall. It is that difficult. So it's a pretty tricky start, possibly, at least it won't be that tricky from a rolling start perspective. But of course, these guys have to try and work it out as best they can. But being on opposite sides here, just quickly, Andy, it could be either work to Doble's advantage, or Redford might get a better jump if he can catch Doble unawares down towards Paddock and do to him what Doble did to him in the last couple of laps.
100%. I think Redford as well is on the outside line, so has got the opportunity to get a faster exit speed coming around Paddock Hill Bend, so going up to Druid. So we may see a move early on in this second race, because Mikey Doble will be taking that inside line into Paddock Hill Bend, so may cut off his speed. So as we get the second race underway, let's see what happens.
There's a car heading off to the pit lane, I think, which is Steve Roberts. But meanwhile, the green flag is in the air, and away we go. Race number 1, there's contact in the back already, a couple of cars involved. But Doble then from pole position takes the lead as they head into Paddock Hill Bend. There's more contact, and another one of the Grey Treks is involved. That's Jason Grey Treks off into the gravel at Paddock Hill Bend. He's got some work to do from way down the order. Into Druids for the first time. Doble holds pole from the lead, and then it's Will Redford in second place. Blackwell Chambers up to third, so a better start from the second row puts the number 1 car into third place ahead. Matt Kendall in the 67, the white car now down to 4th. Chris Etheridge has done a pretty decent start into 5th position. We saw their car number 4 further back in the order. Some more passing going here. Rowan Lundy up the inside of James Riley's. They head out of Surtees and now onto the Grand Prix Loop, up the hill and then down it again, down Pilgrim's Drop and towards Hawthorns for the first time. Chris Etheridge coming under attack from the red car of Lee Britton for 5th position. I think just in front of them there, Redford was trying to set up a move, possibly for the lead, to try and get an undercut here. Off the road's gone Richard Harwood on the grass as he rejoins, and Britton again not taking any prisoners. He almost elbows Etheridge out of the way. I think there wasn't any contact, but he was very close to make his point there. And once again, like it was in race 1, immediately the top 4 are breaking away as the commanding quartet out in front. It's Lee Britton behind. Meanwhile, just in the background, that is John Higgins Jr. again putting himself into all the wrong situations. Off on the grass exiting Sheen Corner, but he now slots in behind Andrew Tibbs in the number 28 machine as they head out under the bridge through Clearways and McLaren off the end of the first lap. It looks though it's Doble with the advantage, but Redford once again on his tail, with Blackwell, Chambers and Kendall pulling away as the top 4 command out in front at the start of lap 2.
Yeah, definitely is. Just looking further back down the field, Jack Noller has had a blistering start, literally up 10 positions from where he started out on the grid. He pretty much got that before just coming up into Druid, so a cracking start for Jack Noller after that earlier incident in race number 1, putting back at the back of the grid here, but a cracking start for him in this second race. Currently up to P16, so does have a little bit of room to go to get into the top 10, but he's certainly got himself in the right place. So we watch James Riley up 3 places into P13 in the gaggle of 4 cars here. We can sort of see between Edgar, Riley, Noller, Goddard and Bannister here, all fighting over that P13 at the moment. So you get these little pockets, and it seems to be a feature of these races. We have these little pocket battles, and certainly like you were saying at the front, it always seems to be like 4 of the cars manage to early on get away from the rest of the field.
Boy, it could not be close at the front. The top 4s, they're covered by 0.7 of a second as off the road goes James Riley and Jack Nolan. Now, Riley was having a bit of a battle previously with I can't see who exactly it was he was battling with further back. Joseph Doble's got involved again in that incident, but 2 cars spearing off the road at Hawthorns. The bemused Luke Herbert slides past and wonders why he's gained 3 spots in a few corners. Now with the top 4, still as it was, but again that gap really is under a second as they filter through Claren and Clark Curve and back onto the end of lap number 2. Still Doble with the advantage in the blue car number 88 in front. Then it's white, green and black car of Redford in second place. White and red number 1 is Will Blackwell Chambers, and the all-white car number 67, that is Matt Kendall after he got his podium in race number 1. Up towards Druids then at the end of number 2. It's a proper flying lap around. Fastest lap of the race goes to Mikey Doble. And this is what happened here between, this is Joseph Doble and possibly, it might be Andrew Tibbs here, I think. So this is what happened between Doble and Tibbs. Now, the accident between the other 2 cars has just happened in front of him, or just happened behind them, I think, in fact. And I think Joseph Doble looked like he just was simply run out of road not forced off the road, but simply tried to hit the outside line and stay with him, but ran out of grip and ran out of the road and off onto the grass and went into the barrier, so he'll have some damage. This is what happened here between Jack Nola and James Riley. So you see Jack Nola left on the outside line in towards Hawthorns. Riley tries to go deep, but then breaks, and that's a bit tricky to call because that looks more racing incident than one person's fault over the other. It looks as though that both tries to take their regular line and just drifted into each other's path.
Yeah, I think obviously the car on the inside there just lost the control of the car and literally the front end splitting across. But again, Jack not being able to sort of buy any decent luck after that blistering start he got here in the second race. Finds himself again at the back end of the field and still in the pits, but not the best second race for Jack. He's probably deceiving himself because we know he's a quick racer, but seems to be getting caught up in a few incidents out in these races, not just this round, obviously previous rounds as well. But currently watching Andrew Tibbs, and as you mentioned, finishing 9th place in the first race, currently in P9th in this second race, and for his first outing here in this BRSCC MX-5 Championship, he's doing a cracking job. But looking at the front here, Will Redford trying to make a pass, very unorthodox place to do it around Druids. Wasn't able to try and get that inside line there coming down into Graham Hill Bend. So Michael Doble still maintains that lead, but Will Redford's just trying to push that little bit more now to try and find the gap and just carve out a passing opportunity. But he's got to watch out for Blackwood Chambers behind him, and Matt Kendall obviously very quick in the first race and just got cut off from the incident and the spinning car of England in that first race. But this second race a lot closer, still 10 minutes to go in this second race, so it's still all up for grabs.
Yeah, and we should mention also, whilst this top four are together, John Higgins Jr. has managed to work his way into 5th position. It looks like it's now hit John. Managed to put him, I say he's about 6 seconds or so behind this leading group, so he's got some work to make up, trying to catch up to them as they come back up towards right-hander at Sheen Curve, as they thump over the curb through the right-hander and back towards Sterling again. Passing on the outside at Druid, it's not an uncommon time. You can make it happen if you've got enough grip and enough confidence in your car and trust in the other. Andrew Tibbs, meanwhile, has gone off the road. That's him falling down the order from what was about 8th or 9th position. So a top 10 finish, not quite on the cards. What could be on the cards, though, is a change for 3rd, because here comes Matt Kendall up the inside and gets his nose in front ahead of Blackwell Chambers. A possible mishap there of Blackwell Chambers puts him behind number 67. And sticking to the rear bumpers, we're on the front bumper cam here, watching the 67 car wiggle its way around Paddock Hill Bend, watching the two in front go toe-to-toe for the lead in first and second in front. Doble and Redford still locked together. The two bumpers are stuck together with super glue, but it looks as though that these two have been pretty close. And of course, Doble, more times he finishes ahead, the more points he's taking away from Will Redford in the battle here. This is between two of the cars with student driver liveries. James Barrett in the 15 car, 28 car, which is the recovering Andrew Tibbs. He's down to 17th place after his spin. One car, I think that's James Riley recovering, and Tibbs not afraid to go up the inside there and almost elbows Barrett out of the way. Never mind you, I'm on a charge back up the order, so out of the way you go, and it could be out of the way you go Mikey Doe, because here comes Will Redford with that charge down the outside line. Now he can go down the outside of Hawthorns if he's confident enough, and he has got the minerals to do so. Over the curb on the outside line, side by side again. Doe will fight back into Westfield. He's up over the curb. Redford's got to be careful not to run out too wide, because here comes Matt Kendall and Blackwell Chambers giving a watching brief. We saw this right at the end of the first race between these two, side by side into Sterling. To Sheen Curve they go. Sterling now on the inside line. This could be Redford's chance. He dives up the inside into the left-hander, and through Redford goes. That was a confident pass to get through. We've just gone past half distance, and now it's gone from Hunter to Hunted, because now it's Redford's turn to go defensive. He did that all the way through race 1. In race 2, he's been the one that's pursuing the front runner. Now he's ahead. Now he's going to do what Doble can do, which is put on a super defensive effort and try and hold on for the next roughly 7 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah, that was a great passing move there. Just made it. You see Michael Doble just side by side here, coming down into Paddock Hill Bend. But he's just got to watch out for Matt Kendall, because Matt nearly made a move there, stick, whilst Will Redford was trying to fight with Michael Doble coming into that passing move. But side by side here into Druids here, Michael Doble will have the outside line, and Will Redford will have the inside line here into Graham Hill Bend. so Will should be able to keep it done. Yeah, Mikey just backs off slightly to be able to capitalise on the speed. So this is going to be a vital corner now as we look on board from Mike Kendall from the other insurance. So he's looking up the inside. He might have an opportunity. Literally, no, not just quite getting it done there, but Matt Kendall is really going on. We see at the background there, a car getting it slightly wrong coming through Cersei's.
That was Harry England having a spin at the background, but as Doble's almost going wheel to wheel, practically door mirror to door mirror with Will Redford. Around the outside now, he tries the tactic to try and make it stick, but Redford's wise to it and throws the block on the approach towards Hawthorne on the exit. Now we go through Westfield, now back down the hill again, a little wide from Will Redford, but it almost seems as though the Doble could see that Kendall was coming. He's almost saying to Redford, in his body language of the car, you need to get on with this, otherwise Kendall and Blackwell Chambers going to find a way through and take full advantage of us two fighting. So might be a bit of a temporary truce here, albeit for a few seconds, to try and pull away from these cars in third and fourth, because they know how opportunistic they can be to try and get past if there's any mishap. And I think Mikey Doble possibly looked at his mirrors for one moment, saw the big white number 67 car looming large. He has to try and get on with it here, and the best way he can do it is to try and get past. The top two could not be closer as they come across the line in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Outside line for Doble. He wants that undercut to switch back to the inside line. He might get it, but Redford's wise to it. Throws the car straight to the inside line. Not on your life, sunshine. You want to get past me? Get round the long way round if you can. Not on this one, Mikey. He's trying. Tries to peek up the inside to get a move done. He looks to try and switch back again in towards Graham Hill Bend, but Redford keeps that car locked onto the racing line. Look at the fact that Kendall and Blackwell Chambers again. This is the thing I've said so many times in commentary. The harder these two fight each other, the easier it is for the two cars behind to capitalise on that. As they make their way out now through. We're looking at the there they go, out towards Pilgrim's Drop. I wonder where they went for a second. Through Pilgrim's Drop and down towards Hawthorne's. This is now on lap 7, and Kendall pulling out of the draft. He's taking Blackwell Chambers with him, and Doble again looked to the outside line, but it looks as though the referee's not ready to let him have that room at all. He is staying steadfast here with less than 4 minutes to go. And really between these four, we thought the first race was close. It is even closer between them. There is only 0.8 of a second current cover with the top four, and it's still not certain which one of these four will come out on top.
100%. I think Will Redford's actually trying to back up Mikey Doble into Matt Kendall, obviously doing super defensive lines, making Mikey Doble just go slightly off the line, and probably trying to give the opportunity for Matt Kendall to try and steal that second place, which will run really into Will Redford's hands, because obviously if it stays like it is now, it's status quo in the point standing as well. No points lost or gained between each of the drivers. So Will really needs to make sure that Matt Kendall can try and get the opportunity to try and steal that second place off Mikey Doble. You can see how super close the top four off. So any slight little mistake from any one of these drivers, you can sort of see there Will Redford going super defensive here into Druid. Look at Matt Kendall around the outside here. Can he get his car alongside into Graham Hill Bend? Can't quite get it at the moment, but certainly, like you were saying, with the battling out in front between Red Bull and Doble, it's given the opportunity for Matt Kendall to possibly take that second place off Mikey Doble. Will Redford's really putting his cars in great positions at the moment. Another masterclass in defensive, taking a school or a leaf out of Mikey Doble's efforts out in Donington a couple of rounds ago here. Still able to keep his car out in front, just keeping it on that apex. So Mikey Doble has not got an easy opportunity to pass, but you can see there Matt Kendall just picking his lines through here, and he might be able to steal second place off Mikey Doble. But we see Mikey just trying to get his car up on the inside, taking a little bit of grass. He has got the inside here now and might get the last move done. Is it going to be contact here coming through the back end of the circuit? Back doors banging up, and I think he might have it done here as he's got the inside line coming up here into this corner, coming down into Sterling here, and he manages to get it done, but Will's coming straight back on the inside. What a fast pace to the end, and Mikey Doble has lost the position. No, sorry, Matt Kendall has lost the position to Blackwell Chambers. So Blackwell Chambers takes over third place. So there's these two battles going out on track at the moment, and Will Redford probably had his heart in his mouth there, thinking, no, not again. Still manages to keep that first place, but it's not over here at all. As we watch Blackwell Chambers left trying to get out the inside here, coming down into Paddock Hill Bend, not quite getting it done, but wow, Matt Kendall, where's he come on the outside?
This is looking pretty extreme. We're on to the last lap of the race now, and Kendall throwing cautions to win down the outside line. Doble makes a little bit of contact, just closing the door quite literally in his face, because all this battling now is giving the chance of Will Redford to get a couple of car lengths, a couple of tenths away. It's Kendall back into third place, past Blackwall Chambers. It really is still possible that any of these four will cross the line first as we come up towards Surtees. And Doble now has to reset and get back onto Redford's tail. They come out of Surtees onto the Grand Prix loop for the final time, and Redford now goes back to the racing line. He feels a bit more comfortable. He can now go there if he wants to, and then immediately goes back to the inside line. He's weaving this way now to try and break the toe, but he knows it's not going to work because Doble is wise to that. Break for Hawthorns, on board with Mikey Doble now. This is the view that he's got, staring at the rear boot lid of the black and green car of Will Redford in towards Hook, the right-hander at Westfield. He did this in the end of the first race, able to sneak up the inside. He's not side-by-side here up towards the right-hander at Sheen, so he might have to try and set him up for a move. Exiting the final couple of corners, but he needs a good run through Sheen curve to make this work. In through the right-hander, left-hander at Sterling. Now the sprint towards Clark Curve McLaren. If he can get a good run through here, he might get a good chance of sprinting towards the line, but it could be 1-1 for victories here as they turn him through Clearways and McLaren, and Doble's close enough to try and get a run here on towards the pit straight. It's going to be very close between the top two. Doble's going to try and make his move. He may well be side by side towards the checkered flag, but Will Redford will stay in front, and it's going to be one apiece at Brands Hatch here tonight so far in the MX-5s in the Winter Esports Series. Will Redford takes victory by a tenth of a second, so only a couple of hundredths bigger margin this time. Redford takes race number 2 from Doble in second place. Kendall is back into third place at the checkered flag. Blackwall Chambers rounds off for top 4 again. Top 4 was covered by 1.28 seconds once more. Then John Higgins Jr., that will certainly help him with a bit of damage control. 5th place for him in the final results. Britton in 6th, Harwood 7th, Rowan Lundy 8th, John Higgins Sr. in 9th. Remember, we reversed the top 10, so Jason Greytrex, even though his car was in the gravel at Paddock Hill Bend at the start of that race, he will now take race number 3 from pole position. So that's one to watch out for. And of course, it is the 2 race winners from tonight who will start together on row 5 back in 9th and 10th. But it'll be Redford and Doble, or Redford technically in P10, Doble in P9, so ahead of him in terms of position in that sense. The rest of the field comes across the line to take the checkered flag. Now battle lines really are drawn. 1-1 in victories here at Brands Hatch. It really will be in terms of Brands Hatch. Winner takes all before we head towards the final rounds at Laguna Seca in a couple of weeks' time. This one is going to be a pretty tense final race to decide who essentially has the bragging rights coming away from Brands Hatch tonight.
I mean, wow, what a second race we had there. That last lap, you know, your Mikey Doble nearly lost second place to Max Kendall there with a very ambitious move coming up through Druids, and give Will that little bit of a fighting chance. But it's going to be interesting in this second race. We've seen 2 sides of Will Redford when he's been in that 10th place. Now, he has got a little bit of ground to make up. So are we going to see what he did in the 3rd race out in Knock Hill in this 3rd race here tonight, where he's super aggressive from the off and trying to get to the front of the field as fast as he can to try and give a few more spaces between himself and Mikey Doble. We do know Mikey Doble on these 3rd races can be aggressive himself, so it's going to be a really big battle between them two. I mean, it's going to be super close on where this 3rd race will go. But like you said, 1-1 wins at the moment. Will it be one of them two that wins this 3rd race, or will it be another driver? And a big thank you to Sam Fitzpatrick for putting Junior and Celia on John Higgins so we can differentiate between the two of them. Obviously, you know him, Scott. I probably was the one that was struggling there in that first race. So thank you very much to you, Sam.
I did have to ask in the Discord just to double check who they were, because we got 3 or 4 races in and thought, which one of you are which? Because there are 2. Is that a glitch in the system? So that wasn't the case. It was, in fact, actually both father and son racing. So that is, thankfully, a clarification of both. There's the result from race number 2 then. It is Will Redford with Mikey Doble by 0.97 of a second at the flag. So 1 apiece between those 2 victories, 2 drivers in terms of victories, with 1 more race still to go. It's a 2nd podium of the evening for Matt Kendall. He takes up 3rd. And will Blackwall Chambers again result into 4th position, but he will start ahead of all 3 cars that finished ahead of him in the first 2 races. He will start, of course, from 7th. Watch from him to pick his way through from the 4th row. John Higgins Jr., of course, who knows he has to get as many points as possible to limit the damage being done by both Redford and Doble, taking points away from him. He will start from P6 after finishing 5th, because remember, the top 10 this race result is reversed for race number 3. The Lee Britton and Richard Harwood then come next, and Rowan Lundy, and then the front row of the group will be John Higgins Sr. in car number 3. and Jason Greatrex, who will start from pole position after finishing in 10th. Keith Dalton then comes next from Luke Herbert in 12th, Aiden Edgar 13th, Andrew Tibbs, who was as high as the top 10 before he had the spin earlier on, in 14th place. Matt Goddard and Rob Bannister are starting from the 8th row, 15th and 16th. Then Joseph Doble and Tom Selden and out the top 18 drivers. And we scroll down towards 19th downwards where we see Steve Roberts. Hasn't had the best of luck tonight after his incident in race 1 and then dropping way down to race 2. He started in the pit lane, I think, or went to the pit lane just as race 2 was about to start and came back out in 19th place at the end. Chris Etheridge, who could have been much higher, but he had that contact early on, so he dropped down the order. And then we had James Barrett and Callum Greatrex, Harry England and James Riley, Jack Noller after his contact mid-race up at Hawthorns, and Gary Preble right at the back of the field having some issues, I'm afraid. Silver Lake Man will have to start from the back of the grid in 26th position. So just a reminder for those who are watching is that if you are looking forward to any BRSCC action here this season, you haven't got long to wait. There is now just over a month or so to go until the first race meeting of the season at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. So you want to be watching that. We've got Mazda MX-5 in action. We've got the first round of the C1 Endurance Series. Of course, modified Fords, the Mini 7 Club are also joining us that weekend as well. I think there's a and a couple of other series I think in there too to otherwise entertain. But Club Sport Trophy are also there as well. A bumper grid set to be installed for that as well. If you want information on any of the championships and series or any of the race events that are taking place across the 2023 season, you can head to the club's website, brscc.co.uk. We still get to announce what our exact live stream schedule is set to be, but if you want to make sure that you catch all the live stream action across the season, when it's been announced and when it's ready, you can of course subscribe to the BRSCC YouTube channel if you're watching on the channel. Of course, hello to anyone that's watching on the Apex Racing TV channels, whether it's on YouTube or on Facebook as well. Thank you for tuning in. If you want to learn more about BRSCC, then you know the website brscc.co.uk for all of those details. And for any racers, of course, as well, who are watching, who are going to be racing in a BRSCC Series or Championship, just a reminder that of course registrations and race entries are open, so if you head to racehub.brscc.co.uk, if you're new to racing with BRSCC and you haven't done so before and haven't actually registered for an account on there, you can do so. It's completely free to register your account. You will need a racing membership to pick the correct one based on what you're racing in, and if you do have raced with us before, simply log on and you can register first as you have a valid racing membership, and then enter your race. You can enter race if you want just a £50 deposit, and you can pay the rest nearer the time when race entries are due. And it's set to be a very, very exciting season this year, with plenty of exciting championships, including Mazda MX-5s. Lots of registrations there once again. Club Sport's looking very healthy with more than, it's now, we reported it being over 90 registrations. It's now broken over 100, so that's going to be a very popular series this year. The new Audi TT Cup's looking good in terms of build kits. We've got the new Fiesta Junior Championship, which is set to have its biggest season ever. We won't see exactly how many cars just yet, but we'll keep you in suspense for that. But it will be absolutely its biggest season ever, with so much great support and brand new drivers coming in. Speaking of which, we should mention very quickly with the Fiesta Juniors, there has been a prize handed out yesterday, because there's been the Jam Sport Scholarship, which has been running over the last few weeks and few months to decide who wins a fully funded season in Fiesta Juniors. And we can say congratulations to Max Solarski, who won the Jam Sport Scholarship yesterday, which means that he will get that fully funded, or a couple of days ago, which means he will get fully funded season. So congratulations to him. So that's enough about real world action. Back to the sim racing action, and here is how the grid will line up. As we mentioned, top 10 is reversed for race number 3. So that means that Jason Greatrex then starts on pole position, as we mentioned, from John Higgins Sr. on the front row alongside him. Then Rowan Lundy and Richard Harwood on the second row from Lee Britton and John Higgins Jr. Then crucially, Will Black, Will Chambers and Matt Kendall ahead of our two race winners tonight, Mikey Doble and Will Redford, main rivals in the championship, starting from row 5. Then Keith Dalton and Luke Herbert come next. That's followed on the 7th row of the grid by Aiden Edgar and Andrew Tibbs, followed by Matt Goddard and Robert Bannister, Joseph Doble and Tom Selden, and then Steve Roberts starting 19th to pick his way through, and Chris Etheridge to round out the top 20, followed by James Barrett, Callum Greatrex, who's had all the bad luck tonight, and then Harry England, James Riley, also bad luck for Jack Noller starting back in 25th. Right at the back is Gary Preble of Silver Lake. The C1 Series, he will start in 26th position. So, one last time, the cars will head off around behind the iRacing safety car their one formation lap before the rolling start here on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Round 15 of the inaugural BRSCC Winter Esports Series. And some very entertaining races so far. I would argue tonight's racing, at least at the front, has been the most entertaining and the closest we've seen so far. Not Kill was a pretty close run thing towards the front, but we're getting more and more competitive. We'll have the season finale at the kind of the poker in the pack, shall we say, in terms of circuit. Laguna Seca. All these circuits they've raced are relatively ones that they've raced before in real life. Most of them, if not all. Laguna Seca and a different challenge for them. Not one they've raced very much. They're happy to have the port going over to Monterey, California. But I imagine when we get there, it will be an interesting twist in the tail. It might be a circuit that benefits some drivers more than others that might not feature too much on the British circuits, but get them onto a different circuit like Laguna Seca, it might play in their favour, possibly.
100%, but obviously we've still got this third race to go, and I think it's vitally important for Will Redford to try and win this race, to close that gap, to pretty much be even standings going into Laguna Seca. There's going to be an exciting grandstand finale to this first season here. Laguna Seca always an interesting track, certainly when you put the Mazdas on it as well, so it's going to be a great finishing race, but it is going to be down to, can Will Redford be able to get in front of Mikey Doble, and can he get a few cars between him to get himself and give him that real big boost going into the final round. We've seen him super strong in the season so far, with a few blips from himself, really self-imposed blips for him, so it's going to be vitally important he gets a good result here. But can any one of them two drivers make the way up the pack? We've seen a few incidents in the opening two races for that mid-pack, so it's going to be vitally important that they stay out of trouble to score some valuable points.
Staying out of trouble is the key thing, so let's see if Redford and Doble and Co can do that. It is Jason Greatrex and John Higgins Sr. on the front row of the grid. Red lights on for the final race of the evening. Green flag in the air, and we are underway for the final race immediately. Shooting the gap of the two front row mates, Rowan Lundy round the outside of Jason Greatrex. Rowan Lundy, an absolute whip it off a line, round a Paddock Hill bend, and into the lead already, not wasting any time. Jason Greatrex trying to come back up the inside in towards the right-hander at the top of the hill. It's side by side for third between Lee Britton, and that's Will Redford round again, not again for Will Redford, once again. For the third meeting in succession, Will Redford has trouble at the start of a race. He's out up at Droz. He's not out of the race, I don't think. But John Will Redford is towards the back of the field. And as for Mikey Doble, he is in there about 7th or 8th in the pack, so he's just survived that. But you might definitely see a replay of exactly what happened to Redford. Now, the big question is, did he jump or was he pushed? In terms of, did he spin by himself or was he helped around? The replay will tell when we get it in a second. We'll let our producer just have a look through the replay cameras and just make sure we can try and find it whilst we look at the action here. This is Matt Kendall going side by side with Mikey Noble at the moment. This is over position. This is over 7th and 8th, it looks like, as Paul Blackwood came with retained position behind Lee Britton. Out wide goes Kendall. Here comes Harwood, and quite a fast starting Luke Herbert getting himself into the mix too, and the white and blue car just in the middle of the shot. There's quite a few white and blue cars. And there goes John Higgins off into the barriers. I'm not sure if there was contact with Jason Greatrex, but round goes the 3 car, noses it hard into the barriers on the exit of Sheen Corner. That might be his race done already. We come towards the end of lap number 1, but Rowan Lundy, like a bullet out of a gun, absolutely firing himself into the lead, and such a lead now at the end of lap number 1. He is absolutely charging out there in front.
100%. I mean, he got that perfect speed around the outside, like we were mentioning there in the second race. We see a few drivers taking the off-road track coming around Clark's curve there to start the second lap here. But yeah, he got that slingshot around the outside. We saw Greatrex taking that inside line, going a bit tentative there as Greatrex loses another place here to John Higgins Jr. Up to second place. So maybe he scores some valuable points to try and mitigate some of the disasters that he's had in the opening 2 rounds. But at the moment, Mikey Doble must be rubbing his hands together up there in P6. At the moment, Will Redford back in P21, so we'll obviously get a mountain of points. We'll have a look here to see what happens. So coming up, is it himself and Mikey Doble the issue? So coming up here into Druids. Oh no, a car from behind literally attacked. I think that was Andrew Timms. That might well have been that literally rear-ended Will Redford coming up into Druid, and that could be a championship deciding incident there for Will Redford. Backward Chambers as well. So all the top runners, the top 4 in the first 2 races, have pretty much been caught up in incidents, apart from Mikey Doble. Mikey Doble at the moment, but up into 4th place, so steadily making inroads into this 3rd race with his main rivals at the moment. We do see John Higgins Jr. currently leading this, but he's had 2 terrible results in race 1 and 2, so it's pretty much damage limitations. So Mikey Doble really fighting out with Will Redford at the moment. We see Will Redford there trying to battle back, currently in P17th, but the 12 positions between himself and Mikey Doble at the moment, and Mikey Doble there going up into 4th place. So it's all for Will Redford. Can he get back into a couple of positions to limit the lead that Mikey Doble could possibly have come towards the end of this 3rd race and going into the final round here in Laguna Seca? So bit of controversy here in this 3rd race for Will Redford. Obviously not by his own doing there. Oh, as we see Robert Lundy there just taking it slightly an unorthodox exit there through Graham Hill.
Now, the key thing here to mention is that Will Redford is up to 15th after that spin, so he's actually up the mix quite up, trying to get back to the order pretty quickly, as we see Jason Greatrex trying to relieve Rowan Lundy from 2nd place. On the outside, he might well be able to make this one stick if Lundy's not confident enough to go on the inside line. Oh, he comes across and Lundy sticks on the inside there. He wasn't going to let him have it that easy. Now the run towards it. It's the right-hander at Westford. Lundy goes a little deeper, parks the car right on the apex, and he almost gets hit up the rear by Greatrex. But look at the way Mikey Doble in the 88 car is sailing up to the back of both of them. Really is advantage Doble, and particular advantage John Higgins Jr., because he knows he has to try and get up the road as far as possible before Mikey Doble gets through. As for Will Redford, he's in the pack though. He's picked up a couple more places. He's up to 14th now, so charging his way through. Now we've only got towards the first third of the race. He's not that far away from the lead. Look at where he is. He's 9.5 seconds off the lead, so he needs to try and charge up and pick his way through if he can and get out of that group of cars as quick as possible to get to the next pack. You see Mikey Doble slot his way past into 3rd place. That's a move done on Jason Greatrex, who goes down to 4th. You see here, this next group, we've got Lee Britton, Joseph Doble, Richard Harwood's in there in the black and red, the red and white car. Lee Britton's off there. That's Jason Greatrex hard off into the wall. That was contact there, I think, with Matt Kendall. Either that or he was battling away with Mikey Doble behind them. But whatever happened, Jason Greatrex losing it big time into the barriers. That's another free pass taken from Will Redford. He's just at the top of shot there. He's behind Luke Herbert in 13th place now. So he's up 1 spot from where he was. No, he's up to 12th now. He's passed Luke in towards Graham Hill Bend in the background. There he is. It's the black, white and green car. You just saw the back of shot there. Meanwhile, Doble is up to 2nd place. Here is Will Redford then, trying to climb back up the order as quickly as he can. He's 2 spots away from the top 10. Will Redford, can he get a break in one of these weekends? It looked though it was pretty good. It was a 2nd in race 1, a 1st in race 2, and all of a sudden he's way down the order. We'll come back to that in a second because we've got replay footage here of Jason Greatrex. What happened here? And he hesitated on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend, and Matt Kendall, I think, to be fair to him, like he almost had nowhere to go because it took him by surprise. So it looks like for whatever reason Greatrex just didn't get any power down or didn't have the drive off the corner. Either backed off, had a bit of a slide, and possibly backed off too much and really caught Matt Kendall unawares, and off he went. Just behind there we can see that's Redford trying to get past. Looks like that is Goddard, I think, or Redford or Roberts, one of the two. There's Redford, so he's now got past Goddard, so he has got through into 11th position, 1 place off the top 10, chasing after Steve Roberts. And we should mention Steve Roberts also. He started 19th and is up to 10th already, so in the first few laps, up 9 positions from where he started. It's taken him roughly 4 laps to do so. It's a pretty strong drive so far. As we watch Will Redford out in front, the gap is coming down just under 2.5 seconds now as Doble starts to chase down John Higgins Jr. for the lead and for the win.
Yeah, I think it's fortunate for Will that he had his spin so early on in this race. It really didn't lose that much touch to the rest of the field, but he is trying to sieve his way through a little bit of a door banging there between himself and Keith Dalton. He's literally got to put everything on the line here to try and limit the points that Mikey Doble, as we see there in P2 at the moment, is managing to get his way through the field. And luckily at the moment in this third race, we haven't been seeing the big gaps that we've been seeing in the first couple of races. So the cars are pretty much stacked together. So it's a really good opportunity for Will Redford to try and get back up into the top of the field to try and limit the amount of points that Mikey Doble will have. But again, another slight incident that Will Redford has in one of these races that puts himself under a lot of pressure here to try and get up. But currently watching Ronan Lundy here having a big battle with Matt Kendall again involved at the front end of the grid. Lee Britton there taking over fourth place. Mike Kendall getting it slightly wrong there coming out of the corner, and does have Joseph Doble there at the back of the grid as Keith Dalton takes an unorthodox lines coming down into Sterling Bend, but manages to make the corner himself, but loses a lot of speed, and another 2 places possibly lost as well, as we watch Jack Nolla up to P12. So made a good recovery here in the third race, and hopefully I haven't commentator cursed him up 13 places, our biggest mover in the field, up into P12 at the moment. But looking back at John Jiggins Jr. having a disastrous first 2 races, and hopefully this third race will be a lot better for him, but it's getting chased down by Mikey Doble at the moment. But the real big battle out on track, as we watch here, is for third place. Lee Britton at the moment currently occupying that place. Lundy in fourth, Kendall there all over the back, just trying to make a move here on Lundy coming through Cersei's, just looking that inside line, which I think he will get it done, but then there'll be a drag race coming down Pilgrim's Drop, but just managed to get it up and tucks it in nice and neatly behind Lee Britton. So that battle for third place, as you can see in the timing tower, between third and seventh is anybody's game at the moment.
Yeah, and the key thing is also behind. You can see just there, you can see Will Redford was quite close to this other edge. You can see Kendall trying to make that move to repass Britton for third place, and Britton now trying to get one of his best results in the esports series to date. And through Westfield he goes to cement that move, and Kendall will try and come back at him. But watch for the 3 cars that will go into combat, particularly also we've got in there, that's Rowan Lundy battling with Joseph Doble. And now there's 2 contact, they come together up at Sheen Curve. Off the road they go, into the barriers go Joseph Doble. Now Lundy keeps off the barriers, and that ironically will give 2 free passes to guess who? Will Redford. He's up to 6, so easily gifted passes, and he's only 3 spots away from the podium because he's only just behind Harwood, Kendall and Britton, and he's got time to catch them. So Will Redford here, this could be ultimate damage control. All 3 of our championship contenders could well end up on the podium in this instance, because that instance certainly has opened the doors up for Will Redford. He must have been smiling all the way in his sim rig watching that happen to himself, because now he's got 3 more places to make up, and he will be in third place. Meanwhile, this is Rowan Lundy trying to get back up the inside to reclaim a couple of places that he lost after going off the road at Sheen Curve. His first target, of all people, is 3 times MX-5 Super Cup champion Luke Herbert, who's not going to make it easy. And the brakes, throws the block in towards the top of the hill at Druids Corner. This will be over 9th and 10th positions. Jack Knowles also made some good progress up from the back of the field. Remember, he started in 25th position, so he's now up now to just a spot outside the top 10 in 11th, as we continue to watch this battle that goes on between Britton in third in the red car number 50 and the 67 car, the all-white car of Matt Kendall. Let's try this again. Down the outside, tries to put himself along, and Britton doesn't go too far across to the outside. He puts the car right in the middle of the road, and Kendall says, oh, to hell with this, I'll go around the outside. He's going for it to make it stick. He won't have track position for the next corner. Britton will have the better line, brakes a little bit later, and Kendall thinks, right, switchback time towards it, but again, Britton's wise to it, throws the block straight to the inside and forces Kendall back to go the long way around towards Sheen Corner. But there's no contact this time, and Will Redford has wasted absolutely no time. Meanwhile, the inside of Richard Harwood sends it in towards Sterling, and just like that, into 5th position. You can tell by the body language of that car with 3.5 minutes to go, he is not hanging around in this third race.
100%. I mean, what a recovery drive here from Will Redford after that earlier incident going into Druids and in the opening lap. Literally at the back of the field, now managing to get them up to 5th place. Does have 4th and 3rd in his sights. These 2 are battling out in front, so this is giving every opportunity for Will Redford to try and limit what could have been a disastrous and a championship ending run here. But if he manages to get past Kendall and Britton to get that 3rd spot, then I mean, what a recovery drive here in this 3rd race, and it's still game on in the championship.
Be close between these 3, and there was a bit of a bump there between the contact between both Kendall and Britton in towards Paddock Hill Bend. That puts Will Redford immediately onto their rear bumper as he heads up towards left-hander at Surtees, and I'm sure there's going to be an attack imminently here as Britain is so alarmed by the fact that Will Redford has just sailed onto his tail. He's put the wipers on for a second, but quickly switches them back off, and now he's going to try and keep focused, look forwards, but it's a bit of a catch-22 situation now because Britain's got to keep one eye on Kendall in front to attack, one eye to defend Will Redford behind. He looks around the outside, might look for the undercut. He's going to try and get fourth place here. Britain tries to, again, defensive once more. Looks left, looks right, but still Redford can't get through. He might get the undercut here, but Britain knows he can go to the inside line if he can. Redford's got the inside line here to put himself alongside, up towards Sheen Kirby. He's got the line, got the room, and there he goes. Up into fourth place, one more car to get. I think he'll only have one more lap to do it, so this is going to be pretty close. Meanwhile, leaders in towards McLaren and Clark Curve for the second to last time, I think, because they're coming up to the line, and they might well... Yeah, this is going to be the last lap of the race, it will, because lap times have been around 1 minute 38s, 39s, 1 minute 40s, and we've passed across the line with 1 minute 34 to go. White flag in there you saw from the marshal on the left-hand side of the shot in the start and finish gantry. And here comes Doble up the inside line, puts two wheels onto the grass as Higgins Jr. does not want to give the position up easy. Why not? Because, of course, he is fighting to try and keep himself in contention for the championship. Now, remember, the current top three of the championship coming into the evening with 3 points separated. It was Mikey Doble in the lead, and it was John Higgins Jr. second with Redford, but not for much longer, because sliding out wide at Graham Hill Bend gives Mikey Doble all the opportunity he needs up the inside in towards Surtees, and Mikey Doble once again hits the front. He's looking now possibly at his second win of the night, unless John Higgins Jr. has anything to say about that, because here he comes out of Surtees, over the crest, down Pilgrim's drop towards Hawthorns. If he's confident enough, he might look for an outside pass here, out towards the right-hander. A bit later on the brakes for Doble, but Higgins is not going to give it up that easy. It stays there, and Doble gives him the room. He's not going to squeeze him out to the edge of the grass. Now down towards the right-hander. And where's he gone? He's still there around the outside. Where's he gone?
So great side, I think, mate.
He's still round the outside. He still doesn't give it. There's John Higgins Jr. He disappeared for a few seconds. I wonder where he went. Through Sheen Curve towards Sterling. It might be another photo finish here. Could be a finishing margin less than a tenth of a second, because John Higgins is all over the back of Mikey Doble, exiting Sterling. There's a lapped car in front, two lapped cars, but they're not going to reach them in time. One of them, ironically, is Joseph Doble, so I don't think he'd be that much of a help. In towards the right-hander at Clark and McLaren, and John Higgins Jr. is pushing Doble out of the corner. It could be another grandstand finish. Get the cameras and it might well be a photo finish to the line. Nose to tail up towards the flag, but Doble will win 2 out of 3 races tonight to head towards the finale at Laguna Seca as still champion leader by the looks of it. It's going to be Doble who wins, John Higgins Jr. second, and again, the finishing margin is less than a tenth of a second. 93 1,000ths of a second as the top two finished nose to tail, and in the run to third, Will Redford could not get past Matt Kendall, so it's a perfect hat-trick of podiums for Matt Kendall. 3 podium finishes, 3 third places, which is pretty impressive for Matt in his ever-improving skill behind one of these MX-5 Cup cars. Will Redford has to settle for 4th, but then again, to recover from that first lap spin, starting from 10th as he did, and then down to, I think, 21st position at the end of lap number 1, back up to 4th, certainly has to be commended as one of the drives, not just of the evening, but of the season as well. That's a brilliant job for him to get back up through the order, but he will be absolutely kicking himself for a missed opportunity, not just for a podium, but to also take more points out of both John Higgins Jr. and also Mikey Doble, who has taken 2 wins tonight to his 1 here at Brands Hatch. It's another victory, but now it's Doble who is leading in the wins tally, I think. I think it's now 7 wins to Will Redford's 6. So if points were to stay as they were, and let's say even drop scores didn't change anything, it would still be Mikey Doble, I think, if they were level on points. It would take it on count back of victories. But it is Mikey Doble who takes the victory by less than a tenth of a second from John Higgins Jr. and then Matt Kendall in 3rd. Redford 4th, in 5th and 6th, and they're still battling a bit further back. This is John Higgins Sr. and Joseph Doble. So once again, it's Doble versus Higgins again, but further down the order. This time it will be Joseph Doble who would just beat John Higgins Sr. to the line. That was over 21st and 22nd position. But the rest of the field have come through to take the checker flag bar a couple of cars. It looks like we're still waiting for both Rowan Lundy and James Riley, unless there's a bit of a glitch in the iRacing timing. Looks like it's it. So that is completion of racing tonight. Now we'll have a couple of interviews very shortly. But here is the classification of race number 3, and it's Mikey Doble who takes the victory. He's 2nd of the evening, and he's 7th of the season from John Higgins Jr. in 2nd place. Matt Kendall with another podium, 3 for 3 on the 3rd step of the rostrum. And Will Redford from 9th on the grid to 10th on the grid to a spin at Druids, down to 21st end of lap number 1, then back up to 4th in the end, one spot off a podium, he will be kicking himself. It's another evening where he took and had another unnecessary error that he could not afford, especially with these last races being so crucial. Lee Britton finishes 5th and Richard Harwood 6th. Steve Roberts again from the back of the grid, 19th up to 7th. That's a good drive from him. Luke Herbert 8th, Rowan Lundy 9th after leading early on from the start, and Jack Noller 25th on the grid to 10th. Another good strong drive from towards the back of the grid into the top 10. Heath Dalston 11th, Matt Goddard 12th. Will Blackwood Chambers had a really off heat race on that third one, down to 13th. So whatever happened to him was a bit mystifying. Then it's Chris Etheridge and Gary Preble. He's driven well from 26th to 15th for the back of the grid. Aidan Edgar, James Barrett, Robert Bannister, Harry England, James Riley, Joseph Doble, John Higgins Sr., Tom Selden, Jason Greatrex, Andrew Tibbs, Callum Greatrex. Not a night for the Greatrexes to remember in esports circles, as they finished down at the back of the field. That, Andy, was probably one of the most intense nights of racing we've had since we started the esports series. There was plenty of battles at the front, lots of scrapping for the lead, for position. A few incidents, one or two pretty key ones in many cases. They got a couple of the title contenders caught up, but through it all, I think out of the 3 title contenders, the one that had the least drama all night was Mikey Doble. 2 wins in the second. That was almost practically the perfect evening he needed to stay towards the front of the field.
100%, but you've got to give it up for Will Redford. You know, he's probably kicking himself after that early incident in race number 3. After putting himself in a second and a first in the first 2 races, you know, to come from the back of the grid, to get your mindset reset, and then basically end up in 4th with an opportunity to get 3rd. You know, it was just probably a little bit of unfortunate for Will's side that Mikey Double was able to get past John Higgins Jr. to get the race win there in race number 3. But I mean, what a fantastic race and a really good recovery, and it still keeps Will Redford in the hunt for the championship come the last round of the season at Laguna Seca, where anything can happen around that first corner. So it's still not all over for Will.
Definitely not, and it will be intriguing to see what the points look like once they've been calculated after this event, to see exactly how it stands going to our final races at Laguna Seca in Monterey in a couple of weeks' time. That is an evening you will not want to miss. I'm sure it will be a fascinating 3-way shootout for the title, and we will hear from at least 2 of our title contenders very shortly. We should first of all talk to the man who has taken 2 victories tonight out of 3 and should maintain his lead in the points in the standings after an almost pretty much flawless evening of racing. That's Mikey Doble. Mikey, 2 wins in the second. Almost a perfect evening, but that's exactly what you needed. I think out of the 3 title contenders, I think you kept the coolest head whilst both Will and John lost theirs at certain points. That looked like it was a pretty fun but also key evening of racing to keep yourself on the hunt for the championship.
Yeah, it always seems to be race 2 that lets me down for some reason, but no, it was almost a perfect evening. Like you say, highest scoring person of the evening and outscored my 2 championship rivals critically. So yeah, I was going for the 3 wins, but it puts me in a good position going into Laguna Seca. However, it's far from over. It could still turn on its head within 1 race, so yeah, it's not a comfortable cushion yet.
But nonetheless, in terms of the racing that we did have, that must have been 3 of the most fun races that we've had, at least to commentate and watch all season. From where you were behind the wheel from all those 3 races, that must have been 3 of the best races that you've had all year. And it seems that Brands Hatch is one of those circuits where I'm sure from your experience, particularly on this layout circuit, on circuits like the Brands Hatch GP circuit in cars like Ginettas, this circuit lends itself to fantastic racing, and it seemed to play its part tonight in what was 3 immense races towards the front where you had to battle your way through.
Yeah, I think Brands is always notorious for putting on good racing, especially in cars like this sort of size. They suit the track quite well. Very flowing, very fast, not much room for error. It just means the racing's close. Yeah, you can defend round Brands. You have got a fighting chance, but equally, you know, you can put some daring moves out there to go around the outside of people and try and make it work. And you need 2 to tango really round here. And I think me and Will displayed in races 1 and 2 how you can race hard but fair for half an hour's of racing, where we was side by side at points for virtually half a lap.
Did you see on the screen in race number 3, there was a bit of an incident where we saw John Higgins Sr. go off into the barriers practically in front of you. Was your heart in your mouth there for a second, thinking, please don't come across the track in front of me and ruin my race already?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting to avoid some accidents coming through the pack on a reverse grid race. Just always happens, and I think sometimes this year it's caught Will out a few times, maybe trying to be a bit aggressive on lap 1, and I've just tried to sit back and just let the race come to me. You know, they're going to make mistakes. If I see try and spot the accident occurring before it actually happens, so you can actually take some proper evasive actions and step on the brakes where need to and pick your line. And yeah, that was a close one, but there was just a Mazda's width to get through, and I managed to secure that. So
excellent stuff on the avoidance of that. So Laguna Seca then beckons. Of course, it looks like it's almost certain it's going to be you, Will and John that will go at it for the title in those last 3 races. Of course, it's not a regular circuit anyone races in this series, but of course it's something that I'm sure plenty will be practicing to get used to it. Obviously everyone wants to go for the title, but what is the strategy going into Laguna Seca? Is it just drive as hard as possible and whatever comes, or have you got a particular strategy in mind to try and get yourself towards the front as quickly as possible as a particular way you're going to drive the races? What is the mindset? What's the thinking going into that final round, apart from the obvious, which is, win the championship?
I think Laguna Seca is quite technical, probably a little bit more technical than brands in these cars, so it probably lend itself to, if you have got a little bit of pace over someone else, you can maybe pull away without them keeping up in the draft. So I think it's going to be majorly important to qualify well. I'm going to try and qualify off on pole, if not front row at worst, and try and get out the first couple of corners or the first lap ahead of the pack, because there are some bottleneck points around Laguna Seca, and you can't take the whole lap side by side. So I think with the mayhem that's going to be going on behind, if you can qualify well, you should be able to make a bit of a breakaway. So yeah, attack race 1 as hard as I can, try and get the win, and then if I have got a points gap that I can manage, then just try and do enough without putting myself in any danger. But all in all, try not to change too much what I'm doing.
Well, whatever you're doing is working, because of course you think that those results should keep you at the top of the points, but we'll see how Will calculates them at the end after the meeting. But the racing you put on for the results that you've got, well done, and of course we'll see in a couple of weeks for the all-important finale. So I'm sure that you'll put plenty of practice in, and we'll see you virtually in California to see how it all plays out. But for tonight, well done, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, looking forward to it.
Great stuff. So Mike Adair with a double race winner. Let's have a chat to the man who took the other race victory tonight, but I'm sure could have done with winning all 3 races tonight, particularly after what happened in race number 3. But we'll get to that later on, which is Will Redford. Well, we'll talk about the start of race 3 shortly, but first of all, let's just talk about the fact that you crucially got a race win. Just missed out on it in the first one and that one, but those were 2 results that ultimately, as we've talked about more than once, it's almost a boring conversation to have in some cases, but again, these last 6 races, I know that the mindset was you needed to make every single point count. At the very least, in races 1 and 2 very strong results to keep you in the hunt going to Laguna Seca.
Yeah, 1 and 2 were good. That's right where I want to be. Obviously, if I'm 1 place in front or 1 place behind Mikey, then that's okay, especially after, claiming pole position and fastest laps. If I only finish 1 place behind him and I've got both of them, then I score more than him. So race 1 was good. I wasn't too upset about losing P1. Obviously, it would have been nice to have it. Race 2 again, brilliant race with Mikey. I know it's probably good watching, but I just want to say that big shout out to Mikey for leaving me room in places. There's plenty of times where he could have just doored me off and put me on the grass, but he's got a lot of respect, and I've got a lot of respect for him back. So I want to say thank you to Mikey for being able to race each other. It's been good fun. Race 3, I was hoping for more of the same, but unfortunately I got spun round in turn 2 right to the back, but I managed to bring it back as much as I could, and I very nearly got a podium out of it. But it is what it is. I've still got some bonus points, and it could be a lot worse, but it would have been nice to maybe be ahead on points going into the last round.
Yeah, we're just seeing on the screen here exactly what happened, because we didn't caught the tail end of it when you were spinning. It looks like you got tagged behind by Andrew Tibbs, who seemed to outbrake himself a little bit, and round you went towards the back of the field through obviously no fault of your own. It's been one of the situations where unfortunately you've every single time through no fault of your own, where you've kind of had that situation where you've been caught up with somebody else's accident or somebody else's spin or trying to avoid something, which has cost you the points that you need. So ultimately now, and I know you don't need me to tell you, but of course going to the Laguna Seca, it really is going to be a case of literally every single result point has to count. So aside of just keeping on Mikey's tail and hoping to try and make a move where it's possible, is the strategy going to the Laguna Seca just keeping it as clear as possible, going at the pace you know you can go, and what will be will be? Is that the mindset you're going to take into it?
Yeah, I mean that is the mindset I brought into this round. This round was, I think the last couple of rounds I've maybe been a little wouldn't say lazy, but a bit complacent. I was sort of just turning up for maybe some fun. Whereas now, you know, I want to win, so I put a lot more effort in this time into, you know, making sure that I'd be up there. I'd figured out qualifying. I was on pole by nearly 3 temps. So, you know, my mindset going into these last 2 rounds is a lot better. But again, you know, I've got unlucky with stuff, and I won't be the first person to get lucky stuff like that. I won't be the last. I know Mikey's probably had it in the past in the stuff he's raced in, but he's pretty good at not getting anything happen to him at the moment. But yeah, the mindset is just, you know, I've got to go for as many points as I can. I think it might be a little bit more elbows out at the last round, but you know, we'll see what happens. You never know. Maybe Mikey will get taken out, and then it's sort of reverse the script on it. But we'll see what happens.
Sounded rather ominous, didn't it? Kind of hoping it's taken out. Obviously not suggesting anything, obviously, but no, it's good stuff. And just another question, as quickly as to round off. Obviously, you've raced these cars a lot, obviously in the sims. Of course, in real life, you've been more recently to racing in the Civic Cup, which is front-wheel drive. But in terms of the experience you've had in these Mazdas, of course, and the fact there is, you know, going forwards, as the club at least, of course, has a big association in terms of running Mazda MX-5 championships. Racing cars like these and with the competition that you've got and driving against some regular BRSCC runners, does it give you any temptation to give an MX-5 a go in real life, or are you happily comfortable with racing front-wheel drive on the real circuits and sticking to Mazdas in the sim? Is it something that you would consider at some point? Maybe not this season. I think you're back in Civics this year, I think, unless I'm wrong. But is it something you consider giving a Mazda a go in the next couple of seasons, see what they're like, and see how you translate how you drive one of these cars on the sim compared to how it feels on the track for real?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have a go in one if someone wants to offer me a go, but I mean, for me, it's down to money, and that's why I race on the sim. You know, I came from sim racing. I managed to find a sponsorship to go and race in real life in the Civics, and that's sort of where I am. I mean, I've got, you know, I own the car, and it makes financial sense to me to continue where I am. But you know, maybe in the future it could be something I'd look at. But I think that I'd want to go more of a step up on the front wheel drive side, to maybe like touring cars or something. But you know, I'd love to have a go. If someone wants to offer me a go, by all means, they can send me a message. But I'm not going to go out of my way to, you know, try and race them unless the opportunity arises. That's
fair enough. I'm sure if there's 1 or 2 MX-5 teams that I watch, I'm sure they would happy let you have a go if you ask them nicely, I'm sure. But yeah, for the performance that you put on tonight, again, the first and second is as much as you could have asked for in terms of results, and you drove brilliantly to come from back to the back of the field, come back to 4th for the best damage limitation that you could have got. So all we can say is literally best of luck going forwards. I'm sure you'll practice as hard as anyone else will to get it ready for Laguna Seca, and see you there, and fingers crossed it all works out for you in your favour. But for tonight, well done, and we'll see you next time for the finale.
Thank you.
Great stuff. So Will Redford then, of course, eyes focus and eyes front to try and get himself in the championship fight. Let's have a chat to you next, the man who had one of his best nights of the season, which was only the 3rd step on the podium. That's Matt Kendall. Matt, 3 podiums, 3 third places. You owned the final step on the rostrum. That has to be your best night, not just in the Sims for a while, but at least in the series. That was a mega turn of pace, and you were up at the front all night long. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I felt really comfortable today. There was a lot of carnage going on around me, and I just felt really comfortable sticking in the toe and taking my time and really just maximising what was there. Because I might have been able to challenge Will and Mikey, but they were so close together, it was more of a risk than I was happy to take. So, yeah, just really happy with that.
Yeah, we're just watching some battles here. Look, your move at Hawthorne's on the screen here, battling with Lee Britton here at that point. It looks as though that you were pretty content in terms of running with the front runners, and you're one of the drivers you noticed over the series, which has gained a lot in terms of pace and confidence in the car, and how competitive you've been compared to the start of the season when you're sort of moving up and getting to grips with it. That must be pleasing to see your progress coming from where you were at the start of the season at Alton Park to be up there now, fighting with some of the fastest guys out there on the grid and being up there in contention for podiums and for the win. To see that the rate of progress has got to be something that you're immensely proud of, at least to see you come that far.
I am very proud of it. I've put a lot of time into making sure I'm competitive in this, and it's carried over to the normal official iRacing races as well. So yeah, it's been a lot of hard work, but it's really paying off now, which I'm really happy about.
That's really excellent here. It's good to see you put plenty of effort into it, which is good to see you move up the order. Going to Laguna Seca, then you came into the evening 6th in points on drop scores. Obviously, you managed to outscore Joseph Doble by quite a bit, so I'm sure you have moved up ahead of him. And then there was quite a bit of a gap to try and close in on Will. In terms of getting yourself up there, I mean, in terms of that battle, it looks like it's on for fourth. It seems to be possibly between yourself and Will Blackwell Chambers, of course, but it will mean having a much better evening on Laguna Seca, that seems, than Will, to try and help out, and drop scores will have a factor in that. Is your mindset to go to Laguna Seca just to have some fun and just to see how the results and how the points lie at the end of it, or you kind of got a bit more of a focused target to just to beat Will and to try and get as many points as you can out of him before or the end of the night, to try and get close to him, if not try and overhaul him as best you can in the point standings? What's the mindset for Laguna Seca?
Well, fourth would be lovely, but being realistic, something pretty strange would have to happen in order to pull it off. So I think my mindset going into Laguna Seca will probably just be to maximise what's there and have a bit of fun racing with this field one last time before we all go back racing for real.
And everyone's everyone's itching to get going once again. So hopefully it seems that this at least has satisfied some people's taste, including yourselves. Listen, fantastic night tonight. I think that's been your best night of the series so far. 3 third places. All the best for Laguna Seca, and we'll see if you can go a couple of steps higher. And I'm sure you'll be mixing it with the championship contenders, whether you're in contention for that or not. I'm sure you'll have a great night. So well done. Get yourself practicing. I know you will, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Great stuff. Thank you, Matt, and excellent stuff from him. And the last person we'll speak to is the man who you might well try and overhaul in the points of 4, but he's got quite a bit of a cushion already, but had a bit of an up and down night, but was towards the front most of the night. That's Will Blackwell Chambers. Will, up in the front running group, we picked up 2 4th places, and then we can talk about what happened in race 3 in a minute in terms of finishing as far down as you did, but on the whole, back with the front running group, not quite on the podium, but still, pace looked good, and hopefully you're quite confident with most of that performance tonight.
Yeah, happy with the pace, happy with the car, was doing what I wanted it to when it turned. Happy with the results until the 3rd one. That was just some bad luck, really. I saw Lee was going wide, I gave him space, he came back on, and he hit me. And then we went off, and that was that.
We've possibly got it on screen here, just watching it, just side by side with Jace, I think. And it looked as though kind of like Lee was kind of leaving the door open to try and hold the outside line alongside Jason, and then possibly just... It looked like he was possibly more focused on Jason than he was on you coming back up the inside. So it looks as though possibly on that one, just, yeah, we can see it here. Just as he went to take his line, looks like he just came across and tagged you around you went. So a bit of an innocent bystander in that one, it looks like.
Yeah, it's life. I'm not too fussed about it. It's a shame. We were having a good evening until then. We were driving back through, but you know, it's racing. Stuff happens. The only downside is I'm a little bit out of lap timing, so out of drop rounds, so it'll hurt the points a bit, so that's why we sort of stuck with it and sort of tried to get back through. So fairly happy with the recovery. Don't think there was much more I could have done there. So no, yeah, overall good evening. It's nice to see the series. You know, we're coming towards sort of the back end of it now, and we're still seeing strong grids, so that's really positive. So yeah, I think it's going well.
Yeah, it seems to be going very well, of course, because we've got one more to go, and it's the joker in the pack in terms of circuits that we picked. It's the non-UK circuit. We threw it in a bit of an extra sort of performance leveler, in some cases, so to speak, in Laguna Seca. It looks as though, given the results, that it's going to be... You might be out of reach of the top 3, but it looks as though it's going to be basically possibly between yourself and Matt Kendall for 4th place, because Matt scored some very good results on like getting 3 third places, and you got a 2 4ths, and a bit further down the pack after you spin. So... kind of similar question to what I asked Matt. Is the mentality to try and defend that 4th place, or are you just going there just to enjoy the evening's racing, enjoy Laguna Seca, and wherever the results fall is wherever they fall? What's the mindset for the final round?
Well, I might put a little bit more practice in. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I've been doing the Daytona 24-hour race, which is a couple of weeks ago in the LMDH class. So that car, very quick, lots of downforce, slick tyres. It's been quite a big adjustment coming back to an MX-5, which is one of the slowest cars on the service. So I've been really struggling with that, to be honest. I've only started practicing on Tuesday night, Monday night. So yeah, 3 nights practice was a bit of a readjustment. So maybe a bit of practice around Laguna Seca, and we'll find a bit more time. But yeah, I think, you know, we can keep up with Matt. I reckon I can give him a good race, and we'll see what comes of it. At the end of the day, I must admit, as the series organizer, you do have to be a bit careful. You want to make sure everyone has a good time. So I've got to make sure I don't have any contact with Matt. So clean racing, have some fun, and see where we end up, really.
Good stuff. And we'll make a recommendation if we do Mazdas again at some point in the future for circuits for the away circuit from the UK ones. As good as Laguna Seca is, based on how they finished the last couple of years, need to do Daytona Road Course, because they put on some really good racing in the real MX-5 Cup over in the US, and I think that would be quite a fun one to see, particularly when you've got them on the banking and through the road course section. So, possible suggestion for the for future MX-5 series if and when we do one. But on the whole, I think you've again a pretty clean night of racing so far, apart from the little skirmish that you had. Yeah, I think it should be a pretty good ending to the series coming up at Laguna Seca in a couple of weeks. I'm sure it'll be big fun. A circuit which obviously no one's raced in real life in this series, as far as I'm aware. But everyone will be practicing hard to try and get, and it might be a bit of a performance level for some if they can try and pick up some of the nuances which some others might not. But yeah, I think on the whole, a decent night's racing for yourself, and I'm sure you'll put as much effort as anyone else to come away with a stronger position in the championship as anyone else at the end of the evening. But well done tonight, and we'll see you all fighting fit and ready for the last rounds in a couple of weeks.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Great stuff. So that is our drivers, last of our drivers that we've had a chat to tonight. Andy, just to round off with your final thoughts, definitely the most competitive in terms of the front runners amongst each other at the top of the field in terms of battles. Advantage Doble going into the final rounds at Laguna Seca, 2 wins, Will Redford's 1. Will, of course, was the innocent bystander in an incident that wasn't his fault, because of course we saw in the though there it was a tag from behind at the hairpin which sent him round, but he battled back up to 4th. Now, of course, we've got these final rounds. Each of those drivers is taking a very different mentality into it, because we don't know what John Higgins Jr.'s mentality is. We didn't speak to him because he wasn't available to have a chat to. But in terms of those drivers that we spoke to, they're each looking at it with a mixture of knowing what they've got to do to try and get the points they need, but at the same time, just to try and enjoy it. And so, different mindsets for each driver compared to their own situation should make it very intriguing when we get on track for the final rounds coming up in a couple of weeks.
100%. I mean, it's down to Mikey Doble to lose. He's in the driving seat now. He knows what he needs to do. He just needs to stay by Will Redford. But that comes with his added pressure as well. You know, he needs to perform. He needs to make sure. So, you know, it adds that extra level of pressure to Mikey Doble, knowing that, you know, one little mistake could open the opportunity to Will. Now, Will's probably in another, like you said, in a different mindset, is that he knows what he needs to do. He needs to beat Mikey Doble in every single race. So he's going to be, and I think we might see a very different approach from Will Redford. The first 2 races, we always know he's going to be up there fighting at the front with Mikey Doble, but it's going to be that 3rd race, and I think the championship will come down to that 3rd race, is how aggressive does Will want to be and how much is Mikey Doble willing to do. But then you have the outsider at the moment that didn't have the best round tonight, John Higgins Jr., in the first 2 races, really probably lost a little bit of momentum and ground to the front 2 runners, but still got an outside chance. So it's never over till that last finishing flag in Laguna Seca in 3 races time. So it's going to be an intriguing end to the season. It's been a fantastic season in its entirety. You know, six rounds, 3 races in each, and you can just see how much the level of racing has improved since round 1 in Oulton Park. So overall, for every single driver, it's been a win-win for them, and really looking forward to that last round.
Yep, so am I, and I'm certain so will everybody else that's competing in that one. If you want to see how the championship battle lies in the final evening of racing, the BRSCC Winter Esports Series at Laguna Seca, this time in 2 weeks, February 23rd, 7:45. It will be live on the BRSCC YouTube channel and Facebook, as well as it will be on Apex Racing TV, so you do not want to miss it. It is set to be a 3-way dance for the inaugural esports title between Mikey Doble, Will Redford and John Higgins Jr. But of course there'll be all the fun and antics, everyone else that are on track also on that side. I'm sure that everyone will be pushing as hard as possible to try and come out on top. It's going to be a very entertaining, very intriguing, potentially very tense evening of sim racing, so you comes away with the first ever BRSCC esports title. That was another excellent evening of racing from the MX-5s here tonight at Brands Hatch. Thanks to Lee and to Alan, of course, and to Andy for all their efforts helping out tonight. Thank you, of course, to the supporting sponsors, so Nankang Tyres, to All Blackwood Chambers Racing for helping out on that one, for Sim1 Racing Simulators, also, of course, to iRacing, to Apex Racing TV for their broadcaster support, and also to Run Your Fleet, who's the main club sponsor and partner for BRSCC as well. And please be sure to tune in. From myself, Scott Woodwis, from Andy and Lee, from everyone here at Apex Racing TV at BRSCC, thank you for watching, and do not miss the finale in a couple of weeks' time. 3 for the title. Who will come out on top after the final 3 races of this inaugural esports series. But until then, take care, enjoy, and we'll see you for the finale in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.